Well, g'day and welcome back to Das Customs. I'm Das and this is my show. So anyway, I've got some exciting news. If you've been following on my Insta or on the Reels, you might have seen it already, a bit of a sneak peek. Also a bit of scary news. Northern New South Wales and southern Queensland is about to get hit by a Category 2 cyclone. They're calling it a Category 2, potentially might be upgrading to a Category 3. Bit unsure yet, which is meant to hit land tomorrow, which means, high winds and all that kind of stuff. And, if you've been outside my workshop, you'll know that it is just surrounded by humongous trees, so I could be in trouble. So, let's just make hay while the sun shines. Anyway, what I wanted to show you, it's just arrived back, is boom. So this is the new project. It's just come back from paint. My buddy Ethan from Rusty Restos, he is the magician who made this paint just look, it's just that good, If you remember, it wasn't only probably a month ago, I was rolling this thing with high build primer with a roller, and he has just made it look spectacular. This car, you just wouldn't know. He's done all the sound deadening with the Raptor liner, which is like a bed liner, but then painted over it with the 2K, kind of giving it a knockback and painted over it. And it just looks great. This thing is looking exceptional. It's, the best car I've ever had. So now I've got to try not to scratch it. What I need to do, there's a lot to do. This is just the start of a project, But the assembly, it can be fun. It can be a bit tedious too, but you guys are going to come along for the ride. This will be multiple episodes. So, if you get sick of it, please let me know. I'll film something else. What I got to try and start doing, before I can just bolt the air ride set up in, which is sitting over there on the bench. You've probably all seen that. I got to start working on electrical. It's got a homemade loom that runs from the front to the back. Nothing's original in this car and nothing's going to be original, so I've got to just figure out how that all works. I've got a whole heap of aftermarket gauges. I've gone with a GPS speedo. I knew that this car was never going to be able to run a traditional V-dub speedo in it. So what I've got is a GPS speedo. I've also got a tacho that matches that, which hasn't shown up yet, but it'll sit beside that. And then I've got an assortment of gauges from fuel gauge, voltage, oil pressure, temp gauge. This is a water temp, but I'm thinking I can probably use it for oil. Let me know if I'm wrong. This is also the air ride gauge, which we haven't powered up yet, but this is, this is going to kind of manage this system here. So I got a box of, this was the old wiring loom that came out of it. So I kind of just have to start, there's the old speedo that was in it. The old voltage meter. So I've just got to start going through this stuff, and that's one of them, fuel gauge. If anyone wants one, let me know. I've got a few of them. I just got to start going through this stuff and seeing what I've got. I got a feeling that was something to do with the headlights. Anyway, I'm going to play around with this for a minute. There's switches and, that's a fuse block. What do they call that? Well, this always happened to me when I'm trying to remember something. I just can't remember the name of the bloody thing. Anyway, it's basically a fuse block. Fusible link. That's what they call that, a fusible link. A fuse holder with just all, red fuses in it. That's got to be good. So I'm going to go through this and we'll just start trying to lay out some kind of a wiring loom, figure out what's what and what I need and what I can delete on. So here we go. Well, allegedly this cyclone is brewing somewhere in the distance. It's been coming for days. it is like, it's like waiting for the grass to grow. Like, this is just going on and on and on. We're prepared, we're prepped. We're prepped for it. I got, heaps of fuel for the generator. You can hear it purring out the back. We lost power last night. The darling wife's car, we actually took it and parked it at an underground, car park that's high, a high underground car park. Just so we don't have only got one vehicle that could possibly get crushed by a tree. And I've just kind of gone upstairs and I'm sick of prepping and I'm sick of waiting, so I'm just going to get on with working on one of my cars. Now, the obvious choice is, of course, this one, which I've been very excited to get back. And, I wanted to try and get it bolted down, and I was kind of filming a bit, but then realised I was just taking photos. It happens. So where I'm at with it, I realised that it actually wasn't, the airbags were interfering with the heater tubes. I mean, I never run heater tubes on my cars anyway, there's no heating in them. But I hadn't realised that when I was bolting it down before. I must have been just jamming it in there somehow, but now with the paint being a little bit more precious, I don't really want to just jam it around anymore. So I've ended up cutting the heater tubes off. So, that there is a heater tube that goes underneath the car. There was different varieties of them. I don't know what year this car is, so I don't know what year this one's out of. But I've cut it off. Now the problem is that that's just going to allow engine fumes and water and all that pus to get straight up in the car. And I was thinking to myself, God, what can I use to cap it? I've seen, the proper caps before a couple of times, but I don't have any of those. So, I started out with a paint lid. Would that do it? But, it's just too big, So I started digging through the trash, and what I had is a couple of Red Bull cans, and cut them off, and they just fit on perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to paint these up, bit of etch primer somewhere. I've got some etch primer. What I was using the etch primer for is actually old trick. If you don't know it, where's the lid gone? I was spraying in. You spray a bit into a lid, into a paint lid. Yeah, that's the one. You spray a bit in there, and then you use your finger to dab it on any cuts, so that way it's not bare metal. So that's what I was doing with a bit of etch primer. So being this is aluminium, I'll hit it with some etch primer, and that colour is close enough to the colour of the car that once it's under there you'll never know. And I'll glue it in with a bit of RTV. So luckily I had a couple of these cans in the bin. The other one I had was this Boss Coffee one, these are a lot thicker, so I might see if I can use this for the other one. Boss Coffees, they are very good. Anyway, I'll keep cracking. Well, there's a few different options. I think the Red Bull ones actually probably ended up looking cooler, so I think I'll run with those. Let them dry there for a bit, glue them in there later. I've got to cut out the other heater tube so I can actually get this thing back down. I'm glad I figured out what that was. I was really struggling to get that to sit back where it needed to, so hey, that's a good thing. Anyway, I'll keep going. I don't know if you can see in there, but that grey thing right there is the back of a Red Bull can. Worked perfect. Let's have a look at this other side. I mean, you just wouldn't even know that it wasn't meant to be there. Look, there it is right there. Boom. Just fits straight over that perfectly. I've RTV'd it on there. I put a good chunk of RTV in there. And that's them sealed up. So now I can actually get into trying to get the body down in its final position. There's going to be clearance issues right here. I did mention earlier I was going to grind that. Let's see what it looks like first. Well, I feel like that's sitting down as good as it's going to. It's a little tight at the back still. When I say a little tight, it's be squishing that rubber to the trans. But, you know, let's just see how she rolls, I guess, you know. I don't really want to put a big dent in the back of that if I can help it. So what I'm trying to do now, when I built this beam, I actually built this entire beam from scratch, and I never tapped the tops of where the body bolts down at the front here. So I've just actually, now it's lined up, I've drilled a hole in there. I was never 100% sure where it was going to sit, so I've drilled a hole, and I'm just now going through, you know, the bits. I'm going through the bits. These are their rubbers that go in the front there, and how they work is they go through that, and then that goes between the body, so you end up with a sandwich of rubber between, you know, so to stop the vibrations, I guess. So I'm going to be going through this, you know, thing a lot. There's all the bits and bobs that you need for holding the body to the pan. And as there's another one of them. As I go through them, I'm going to be cleaning them up, giving them a little paint, and then bolting them down. So this is the tedious process. I could buy a new kit if I wanted to, but you know, then what would be the point of having all this? Look, that's one of them handbrake things. You got all the bits, you know. I got a lot of bits, I might as well use them up. So anyway, clean, paint, boom, bolt, all the rest of it. I've got to figure out what size bolts go through these. There goes one of them. What size bolts go through them to make sure I'm tapping the right thread. In the previously I'm pretty sure I ran these, which is like a little Allen key bolt. You know, that'll probably do it. That looks like it's going to do the trick, so yeah, maybe we'll run with them. All right, keep cracking. Well, it looks like the worst of the cyclone is kind of past us. Not that we copped that much. I think it was more the fear that we might cop it. And you know, like you look around outside, and I mean, there's some branches down and a lot of leaf matter down. It's kind of everywhere. Still a bit of wind howling amongst the trees. You know, I mean, that's what I was scared of, is one of these big things coming down, or one of them, you know, depending which way the wind was blowing. There's a lot of them around me. But we've been pretty lucky, I guess. I've been pulling the new BT 50, which will be featuring on this channel. I got a lift kit and wheels and tyres coming for it, so you know that's going to be something. This is the new tow rig, replacing the big girl. Been pulling it in and out of the workshop every night, and it only just fits. It's amazing how much bigger than you know, a Beetle that car is. I can fit 4 of them in the space that it takes to fit kind of one of them. So it looks like I'll be able to move the 50 Shades back into its spot and start actually kind of finishing what I was doing. And by the way, that is one big spider that's decided to take up, you know, home. And I did touch it before, and you know, you might think that's dead. It's pretty still, but no, she's alive. A big one. She's alive. There it goes. Whoa. So I've just been kind of poking through. You know, I painted these up yesterday. These are the back bolt downs, front bolt downs, and I've just been deciding what hardware I'll use. I think I'm just going to go with these Allen keys for that back section there. They look nice and neat. I got enough of them there. I'm pretty sure that's the size I'm looking for. If not, I'll go these big silver ones. Maybe I should go them. I got enough of them too. There's 4 of those. So now it's just the time for shuffling through stuff and figuring out what I've got. You know, there's a lot. After doing that, I've got to then decide where I'm going to run the airlines through the back. I've got 2 airlines to get from the back to the front, and how that's going to work. Yeah, I mean that's a bit of a tricky one, because I need it to be. Yeah, it's a tricky one. I'm gonna have to figure that out. So that's got it done. Then I've got to run the soft lines, front air lines from the shocks and get them up through somehow. They might end up coming up, you know, through the inside and then up through there. I've got that big hole there, which I've got to do something with anyway. So I've got to find a grommet that's going to fill that. And all these things, you'll see the difference. I've kind of just been noticing the differences between later and earlier cars. I swear on that car, those bolts that bolt to the beam are in there. And I know that because I've got my pump mounted there on the other car, and there's no way I could mount a pump on this one. And what else? Yeah, those bolts go down behind the pump. So yeah, I mean, obviously that's a difference. I think I'm going to use that tank in there. I've got to decide what colour to paint it. Do I want it grey or do I want it black? I mean, the black looks pretty cool. Just gives it that bit of an accent. These things and more will be answered along, you know, all in due time. I've got to start finding glass for this thing. I've got to find a windscreen wiper motor and, you know, components for that. I've just got to start looking for bits. I've got a box of rubber grommets somewhere I've got to start doing. You know, like I said, I think I might have mentioned the other day, so I've started kind of collecting the bits and bobs. I found a windscreen wiper motor, or, you know, switch. Found a nice ignition with keys, and I got a couple of light switches. I cleaned this one up real good, so it basically looks like a new switch. Well, I'm about to pull the airlines from the back to the front, and what originally I tried running them with the wiring loom, which runs up through the top on that side. Not easy. Then I tried running them on this side, up following the path, but on the opposite side. Also not easy, but I've managed to do it. And, you know, if I were to film the 2.5 hours that it just took me to do that, geez, it would be a boring video. But I've done it now, so let's pull the lines through. And there we go. 2 lines at the front, 2 at the back. So I'm trying to work on all the things that I can do, you know, without some of the parts that I need. And this is one of them. This is just the electrical mess that I'm going to have to deal with. I'm trying to save on the wires that run all the way to the front, and I'll just stitch back onto them later. And it feels to me like this is potentially the original loom, but there's, you know, all kinds of bad, ugly stuff going on. So I think what I'll do is I'm just going to snip everything where they first join. Like, I got a feeling it's just even hard to know. Maybe that's tail lights. Maybe one of these is going to the alternator. I'm thinking that one is the alternator, but it kind of feels like it. And then maybe that one was going to the starter over there. But, you know, let's just cut them. We'll figure it out as we go later. Yeah, so I'm just going to literally just get a pair of pliers and just cut everything at as close as I can get it to the join, you know, like that. That's some kind of a loom going through there. So yeah, I'm just picking this thing apart, just cutting off what I don't need, and we'll start fresh from here. Look, I may even end up pulling a new loom through yet, but if I can at least have the wires that go through there, I can probably join onto them back and front and make it work. And as I'm unpicking this, I'm just finding stuff like that, you know, which is just 2 big wires twitched together, covered in electrical tape, no solder, no nothing. So I'm glad I'm doing this. I feel like once it goes up into the body, we're sweet. The biggest issue is trying to braze, solder old wires together can be an issue sometimes, but I'll just have to get some flux and we'll just kind of clean them up as best we can. Anyway, we're starting to snip it. I'm almost to the point. I just want to pick things apart. I don't want to just cut willy-nilly. I want to leave things as long as I possibly can. Well, there's what I'm left with, out of that. I got a feeling, now I'm looking at it, that I'm going to need more up the front to run all my gauges and whatnot. I feel like that's a very, very basic, running loom. So I don't know how I'm going to do that, because I had a hard time pulling them wires on that side. I may end up just having to feed up through there again. I mean, it wasn't that hard, I guess, So, righto. Anyway, that's that cleaned up. Basically, I want to do is, I've got the airbags hooked up at the back there. I kind of just want to get, I don't know why I'm thinking I need to stab the engine, because I probably don't really, but it's going to give me a layout of where I've got to get the fuel regulator mounted. I've got to, see, I mean, they're just all, I think them holes just get plugged. I don't think I have any need for those, which I'm just going to use some of these doohicks here for now, so hopefully I've got the right size. I'll just go through and bung them all with rubber bungs, that way that's done, and then I'll keep cracking. It's still raining, I've got a bit of time, so I may as well just keep ploughing ahead. This back section here had so many holes in it, you got no idea. I mean, I probably showed it in a previous video, maybe not, but it was just peppered with holes. There was probably 30 holes in there. And the ones that I could just, easily, or they were a bit big, I was going to have to cut a panel, which was those 3. I just thought I'd put the plugs in them. From experience, I know, if I end up putting a turbo on this thing, which, look, there's an 80% chance that's what's going to happen with this car. The engine was built to take a turbo. It was also built to take fuel injection. And I feel that I'll probably end up running the MSD if I end up having to have one in the back there. So it's probably not bad having a couple of ports that need to go through there anyway. So that's why I just left those. Anyway, we'll go back to the front. So that's kind of that. There's the engine sitting there. I've got a clutch mounted in it. I forgot I'd done that, clutch and pressure plate. So probably what I'll end up doing pretty soon is just stabbing that back in there, just so we can kind of start to see some finish and see what it looks like. All these little boxes of stuff come in handy, I'm telling you. If you've got to buy one, you might as well buy a box. That way you've got them for years to come. Get rid of all that, clean that up. Air ride fittings are complete, so I can put that back down. It's a mess. I mean, like I was saying, we've been going through a flood here, and I've just been doing other stuff as well, helping mates fix generators and this and that and the other thing. So it's a mess, but that's okay. I'm happy to be just working back in my shed. I feel like the danger's past. So look, have a quick look in here. I feel that it's funny how it all comes up the front here into this one big loom. I mean, yes, at the back I do have 2 blue wires, I do have a grey wire, and I got a heap of black wires, and I do have 2 red wires at the back there. I do know that. So obviously the 2 reds are I'm going to say I would have thought one of them was constant power from the battery, which is probably, that's probably what that is. So I'll probably end up having that hooked onto the starter motor. And then the other big red would, I imagine, be power back to the coil. And I guess that's probably on key on. And then I imagine, that's key on, coil, accessories, and then probably start would have been over here. I'm guessing at this stage there'll be a lot of testing going on to try and figure all that out. Just kind of haven't cut all them yet. Anyway. Alright, so the first problem has occurred. First of two foreseeable problems that I've got. Problem one is, you can see there, that is where that is hitting. I mean, the easiest thing to do would be just to cut that off. I just don't want to cut a hole in that or bash it with a hammer, which would be the usual thing to do. Do I want to cut the top off my brand new engine case though? Let's do some measurements and see how much I would actually have to cut off to make that fit. So I'll grab a ruler. You know, I've got 25 mil, and then facing that the other way, I've got 12 mil, so I would have to cut 12 mil off the top of that, or bash that with a hammer. The issue with this is that I've done a trans raise. And I thought I had this body fitted to the car, but I never bolted it down, and that is what's biting me now. It did fit previously, but yeah, obviously not well enough. Oh. If I start bashing that with a hammer, it's just going to cause all kinds of ugliness. Oh, there's that big spider again. Look at him. Oh. This engine's going to live in this car forever. I think I'm just going to cut it. I think I'll just get the grinder, I'll mark it up real nice, and just cut it off flat on the top. Kind of vaguely remember having seen that somewhere before. But all these engines seem to still be round on top. Round, round, round. And that other one's round too, so... I mean, it's not going to weaken the engine at all, I don't think. The other issue I'm going to have, and I believe it's a problem, I think this tinware at the top here is going to collide with the firewall. I mean, like I said, I had the body fitted with the engine in, but I never bolted it down. And it's bucketing down out there. Oh, this is true flood weather, and the rivers are already up, so, I mean, it's a lot of water just coming down when we're already at capacity. Anyway, I should fix that. See how the leaves have caught in my drain there and all the water's running down? Just sort that out. It's always hard when you got to cut your good stuff, you know, and you don't want to cut finished paint. But I just trimmed a bit off there, and it doesn't look too bad. Look, at the end of the day, it's going on there. It's not going to stop it going on any other car. That is just how it goes. So, cool, that's done. All right, next is, let's try and stab it back in. Now, I sent a bunch of messages around to, you know, some good friends, fellas who you've seen on this channel a bit. and said, what would you do? Cut the engine top or clearance the body? Unanimously they said clearance the body. And what had I done? I'd cut the engine. So hey, but you know, having said that, it's in. I mean, that's it. It's done, you know. And that I was worried about, the doghouse touching the body. Yes, it did. But I just put a piece of rubber between there, just to give it some kind of, you know, thing on the body. And I guess it may have pushed. I mean, it's all pretty solid. You know, I clearanced that on another car, and I really wanted to avoid it on this one. And I think that's going to work. I mean, you know, time will tell, I guess time will tell. The last thing I'm going to do for this video, and it's purely just because why the hell not, and just to show you guys, give you a good walk around the car, is I'm going to sit the airbag thing in the front. And that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 of the major components of this car complete. That'll be the air ride setup, the engine setup, the front beam with the air shocks. I mean, the floor pan's done, paint is done on the shell. You know, so we're really starting to rock and roll on this thing, and it's amazing how quickly it's coming together. Now, the next few episodes, believe it or not, are going to be working on this car, and it's going to be some tedious stuff too. There's going to be wiring and, you know, fitting glass and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, just going to have to hang in there with me. I hope you enjoy this kind of stuff. And by the way, that big bastard is still there. He's just hanging around. He just likes this car. You know, I've called this car the 50 Shades, but maybe I should call it the Huntsman, you know. Anyway, look, I'll be back with you. I'm just going to throw the airbag setup in, clear a couple of stuff, and give you guys a look around this thing. You know your car's low when when it's sitting on the ground and you can do this. Ah, this thing's wild. Anyway. All right, so here we go. This is the custom air ride setup. I didn't buy this as a kit. I pieced it together, you know, from multiple different companies and made it up and bolted it together. If you want to hit me up, I can probably tell you where most of it came from, you know. So the front beam, made by me, full custom front beam made by me. It is very hefty. I mean, this thing, it's I think it's 12 mil steel. So, you know, I mean, she's not going to get any flex. It just touches the body there, which is a little upsetting because I thought I'd have a bit more clearance than that, but hey, that's how it goes. They are the Limebug Gold Tops. I haven't really tested them out yet, but they are the latest, you know, U-Butte best shock you can get, pretty much. The runner shifter, which you've seen before in my cars. You can actually take the top off it and make it short if you want. Hydraulic handbrake. Now, when I first built this pan, this car used to sit a lot lower in the rear end. And I was trying to figure out why it sits so much taller now. It's, you know, even parked, it's got a rake to it. Like the front's down and the back's, you know, up. Well, because they're 18s on the back. It's got big wheels on the back, and I'll sacrifice a bit of low for that call, you know. I mean, I'm building this car around those wheels, so they are Convo Street Pros, and it's the only set I've seen with a polished lip. So, you know, normally they're just straight black. So it's got the polished lip and the polished internals, which is pretty cool. The red walls, the red stripe. is looking pretty cool. And of course, the 2110, not much light back here, but that's the 2110. And of course it's sitting on an IRS rear end that I adapted, built the air ride, you know, everything. And of course it has this bolt off clip that I've also made for it, which will make an appearance later. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for me. You know, it's a big push trying to get this stuff done, especially with a hurricane blasting, cyclone blasting in the background. And, you know, there's a lot of work to do on this car. So hang around, we're going to go through it, and this thing is going to end up being awesome. Anyway, with that, I'll catch you all later.